Hi, folks. You're with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about alleged experts. Now, we're in a world at the moment, a clown world, an upside-down world, but where we're told by newsreaders, politicians, any sort of folks that have got a media presence of any sort, really, to say, well, we've got to do what the experts say. The experts have said, Anthony Fauci has said, and this sort of thing. Now, whether these people are or aren't experts is another matter, but whether you think they're experts is another matter. But I've met a number of people who have been in the public eye and who have a platform to pronounce, where politicians say, well, we had to do this. It's not us. It's the experts. The experts said so. And we follow the experts. We follow the doctor's orders. Now, we all know those things are cop-outs. Politicians don't give up power. That's the last thing they do. So they're just hiding behind someone else while they do their shit in background. That's really what's going on. But these so-called experts, and again, I've met and spoken to a number of them, and ended up going to dinners where I'm sitting next to them. These sorts of things. So I'll go through some of them. Now, there was a guy who was an announcer in the financial news, and he was on TV all the time, and he was interviewed by all sorts of, on just about every news station. Anyone that wanted to know anything about finance, they would interview this guy, and he looked the part, and he would always be quite slick. His delivery was said with sort of gusto and confidence, and very measured, and it almost seemed rehearsed. And I thought, well, no, it can't be. The guy's really an expert. He was well, Billy, well, what's your thoughts on the interest rates, or what's happening with the Japanese yen, or what will the stock market do tomorrow, and this and that, and he had an opinion on just about everything. I thought, fuck, the guy's a real expert, and I just assumed he was just a guru, one of these geniuses that sort of knew his shit, knew it well, and his opinion was quite justifiably being sought right across the media spectrum. So anyway, one day I end up having it was like a lunch, and everyone's got this like finger food and coffee and whatnot there, and I end up sitting next to him, and so I thought, well, here's my big chance. I'm here with one of the true great geniuses in finance in the world, and here he is, and I'm sitting right next to him. Wow. So I was, suitably humble, but talking to the guy doesn't know shit. He didn't even know what day it was, and he had this sort of self-effacing giggle, like he sort of realised within a few sentences that I'd sussed him and knew that he was nothing more than a talking head. And when you sort of drill down a little bit, what it is, the boys downtown who decide what narrative they want to push, and they found this guy in all their focus groups and their research. He goes down well with the public. The public like him and they trust him. He's just got that sort of trustworthy face. And so what they do is they get him and say, okay, Billy Bob, this is what you got to say. The Japanese yen's going up, and the euro's going down, and the American dollar's going down. And they give him his little patter to say, and all the questions that he gets in the interviews are rehearsed. Okay, so the interviewer is going to ask you, what about the stock market? Then they're going to ask you about the interest rates, and then they're going to ask you, and this is what you say to each one. So that he rehearses in front of the video camera. He gets his script, and they do the whole thing, and they'll work it through for as long as it takes for him to have nailed down a flawless delivery that's got that confidence thing where he looks into the, I'm not talking about Joe Biden here, I'm talking about this guy, where he looks into the camera and says, and the interest rates will go up tomorrow, and they will do this, and so that, and the exchange rate will be, and so that's it. He does that, and he does it well, and he does it so well that people actually think he knows what he's talking about. He doesn't know anything. I mean, he knows nothing. He's too stupid to know anything, but he's this useful talking head that can deliver like an actor can just deliver his lines into the camera, and it works. And they focus group the different, but like the same as they focus group politicians. They get the focus groups to say, well, I like this guy, or I like Billy Bob more than Jimmy Jack, and that sort of thing. And they go, oh, well, we'll get to Jimmy Jack to run for president because the public like him more than Billy Bob. But Jimmy Jack's got an IQ of like 1. Who gives a fuck? The public like him. They'll vote for him. Today we're in a politician selection process. Which politician can most successfully sell the globalist project to the public? That's what we want. We want that and only that. And that's really what this guy's doing. He's selling the financial side of what the globalist gameplay is, and delivering gullible investors into the hands of the big boys, downtown. So this guy does it well. Now, another time, another coffee here. I had coffee with someone who not that long later was to become a very senior politician in Australia, and they were reasonably bright. They certainly weren't stupid, but their delivery and attitude was so cynical, if not defensive, that they were the complete opposite of a man of the people. And this person mentioned they had sort of political aspirations, which I thought was a bit of a stretch given their attitude and their cutting remarks, and the cynical, sneering manner that they seem to have as just part of their persona. And but the guy could give as good as I came back in with a couple of sort of cynical and wry observations, and got an appreciative chuckle in return. So I think he liked to operate on that level, maybe. But it was quite astonishing. He believed that the public were absolutely stupid, utterly stupid, and his view was that the globalist priorities were the right priorities to have, and he was the right man to sort of put them in action. So that and so I was rather surprised that someone who was a committed globalist but had such a utter contempt for the voting public would want to go into public life, or would see any benefit in it. If you don't want to make the lives of the citizens better, why would you go into public life? But it may be in his case it was personal aggrandizement. It couldn't have been the money. He was reasonably well off. Maybe it was personal aggrandizement. Who knows? But he so I was surprised when I picked up the paper one day and saw that he'd been selected to enter the parliament. So that was him. There was another politician who, again, had been quite senior in the federal sort of level, had been chairman of a number of quite important committees and things like that, and he was just about to quit, or had just quit Parliament. But I bumped into him and we sat down and had a chat, get another cup of coffee, and I assumed that given again that he'd been in federal politics for a while, and had been a heavy hitter in these committees, that he must be a knowledgeable guy on the issues and the challenges facing the nation, and again how to make the lives better of the citizens and improve the standard of living and so on. But again, he just squawked one globalist talking point after another, and all the social division. Did I know that every woman in the country is being beaten half to death by her husband? Misogyny is everywhere, racism is everywhere, Hitlers are everywhere, fascists are everywhere, and he just droned on and on. But I tried to engage in something to say, okay, well, the world's just a little more nuanced than that. There aren't, every white man in the world isn't Hitler. I mean, you need to, surely that would be something you already know. But he just didn't have the brain power. He just squawked the talking points, and gay rights and transgender bathrooms. It just went on and on and on. The guy had no fucking idea. He was a fucking moron. But there he was, sitting atop the pinnacle and I'm sure he was globalist sort of selected and appointed and so on. I mean, he must have been. The guy's too fucking stupid to do it himself. But all he did was represent the globalist thing. There wasn't one word about making the lives better of Australians, nothing about it, or improving standards of living, or lowering the cost of living, or anything like that. Nothing. And so, I mean, what was he even again? Why was he in public service? The guy was just too stupid. Just talking to him, I realised how stupid he was. Now, when you see someone in sort of quick sound bites on the news, at the 6 o'clock news, that sort of thing, and because it's he was clearly favoured by the news. The news stations and the media class generally, so they tend to edit out anything that made him look stupid. So you get these really sort of quite sharp comments from him, and he came across, at least the snippets on the news, he came across like the guy really knew his shit, but in fact he didn't. He was, as I say, a moron and knew nothing and just spoke in globalist talking points without even knowing what they meant, by the way. And try and say something. Do you believe that 3/4 of all women are beaten up every night by their husbands? I mean, do you really believe that? Oh yes. The experts say so. Well, who are these experts? You mean the butch dyke lesbians from the university? I say, well, what? Which experts are saying that? Oh, you're just Hitler, aren't you? Oh, fuck no. So there's sort of there's a few examples. I could go on. I've met newsreaders. I met a newsreader who was very prominent in the day, and we were in a group having dinner, and he was a very nice guy, very charming, and there was just a certain presence he had about him, which would have been certainly helpful for reading the news and sounding, trustworthy, plausible, authoritative, all that sort of thing. But once you sort of got him away from his just strictly his utterances of charming, and he was quite charming. He was a nice guy, very friendly. I think quite a lot of it was concocted, but even so, he attempted quite genuinely, I think, to make everyone sort of near him and around him quite comfortable, and was quite polite and well mannered and all that sort of thing. But when you got him away from that and got him onto issues, talking about the complexity of issues, you could see there wasn't really much there behind the pleasantries and the utterances that were again polite and pleasant. But then he's just reading a script that's given to him on a teleprompter. He doesn't have to know it necessarily. And for the job they wanted him for, reading the script of a teleprompter, he did it quite well. But didn't understand any of the issues, or maybe some of the superficial ones. I mean, he might talk about, the basic stuff like, there was this kid and the kid got, run over by the truck, and the mother was in a terrible state, and I really think road safety is important. He might say that. Well, who can dispute road safety is important? No one wants to see kids getting torn to pieces on the road in a road accident. So but you get him beyond that simplicity, and that is a simplistic thing. You get him into more nuanced territory than that. He was miles out of his depth. So also coming to other experts, talking to an expert. This was an alleged expert in environmental damage that was supposed to, and this guy was dumber than Greta Thunberg. I mean, seriously. Again, these people are just so tightly scripted and so ideological that they can't understand nuance and complexity. The ideologist or the idealist, if you want to call it that way, is by definition a fanatic, and they have no patience and they can't tolerate nuance, because that calls into question their own worldview and their own attitudes, which of course are strictly doctrinaire. So talking to this guy, you're a fucking idiot. Who's a white guy, by the way. You're a fucking idiot. You don't know anything. But these are the sort of people, these people who are alleged experts, they're not experts. Very few of them are, I suppose, but just mathematically, some of them must be. I mean, they can't all not be experts, but they're mainly doctrinaire propaganda peddlers, or globalist controlled stooges and flunkies. And this is a media class pushed them relentlessly, and it's I think quite sad, if not tragic. And when you sit down and meet these people, I've met others, like on planes. I met a Harvard professor going from JFK Airport to Heathrow, London, and we were sitting together on the plane for the whole 6 hours, whatever it is. And he was, I suppose, interesting in a way to talk to, but his understanding of the world and the nuances of the wider world were again very narrow and very limited, and again quite doctrinaire. And maybe he was knowledgeable in the very vertical nature of the small subject or something, maybe that, but to fit that into the wider world, he seemed utterly incapable. And I had 6 hours of talking to him, and he seemed like a child. Maybe you go from school to university, then you go back to university to be a lecturer, and I don't think his intellect saved him from his infantile views on a lot of things. But there's just a little sort of a few vignettes there, and you've been with Tassos today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.